So, where's Doof? Can we see him? There's a Doofy. There he is. We are at the back entrance to the Ralph's at Moore Park and Hazeltine in the Valley. Hazeltine. Like Valentine and Clementine. A lot of tines. I thought tines were on forks. Anyway, some woman had pulled out, and there's my little sign. I'm a cheater. I make little signs and little stands so that I don't have to stand there and hold it like a dipshit. It's not all for just being lazy. It's because I feel funny. But some woman had pulled out. She saw the signs, pulled out, and then she came back and gave me like $10 and says, "Here you go, sir. God bless you," and all. And I didn't want to tell her that I think God bless you means fuck you in Christian, but very nice thing to do. But it's just another run-of-the-mill day. We found out that there's all these rooms that have been paid for that they have standing empty, and Lasha wants to put us in some fucking FEMA trailer. Bullshit. I'm not going in one of those. But what I was, it's just been another day in a series of endless days. I was staying silent so that people walking by didn't get blessed with the golden wisdom of my words. Anyway, what topped off a 2-week period of endless, relentless, utter rejection by, I don't know, a dozen or more people and entities was really capped off when I was watching a video by one of my scientific heroes, a guy that went to the same university as I did, University of Arizona, and became Professor Emeritus, meaning for life, of climate science there. And this is a pretty prestigious place to get that. And he has been on a prediction pattern since the 2000 zeros, that maybe even earlier, that mankind has a very short time left. At that time, I think it was like 2007 or something, I watched him on an interview where he was saying he doubts there'll be a human here by 2035. He's moved that timeline up by at least 5 years, maybe 10. And I tend to believe a lot of his shit. I subscribe to, and like a lot of his stuff. And so I was constantly a fan of watching and would tell people about this guy and how he's fucking smart and knows what he's doing. And then this whole thing with this coronavirus hits, and a lot of the people that I thought were critical thinkers and intelligent on their own right turned out to be dedicated believers. Here's the bottom line. When I view a threat to my life, I need to know about the probability of it happening. That governs my actions, my risk-taking, my general demeanor. And if it's not in at least whole numbers of percentages, then, even one, if there's something that's 5% or less chance of killing me at a given time, then I'm probably going to go do whatever the fuck I'm going to do. Because by their own admission, for instance, with coronavirus, the CDC, the WHO, by their own admission that they've put out there for everybody, 80 to 90% of people, if they show symptoms at all, is very mild. So then you're talking 10% of the cases get severe. And then out of that, you have, a small percentage of that, of the people that get sick from it, that die. I don't even view getting the possibility of getting sick as a restraint from my actions. So what it comes down to, whether it's flying on a plane, breathing the same air as other people breathe, taking certain chemicals or drugs, driving in certain, whatever it is, if the percentages aren't there, then I don't believe it. And it all comes down to death. If it's not going to kill me, maybe it'll cripple me, but if I do it, and it does, then that's on me, The only reason I don't care to die is just because I know that my continued existence is more painful to other people than it is to me. And it sucks. But when you take the percentage, the number of deaths, today, what is this? March 28th, March 27th, something like that. It just topped 100,000 deaths. Now, there's a tomfoolery afoot because this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion, even by their own standards. It doesn't classify as epidemic or pandemic standards in the range. So 100,000 people in the U.S. have died. Even if we take them at their word and say that, yes, the coronavirus killed those 100,000 people, of which that's not true. But let's just say that we take that number for being real. 100,000 out of 330 million. 1% of the nation's population would be 3.3 million people dead. Million. That would be 1%. So what is the percentage of 100,000 out of 3.3 million? And 1,000 thousands makes a million. 1,000 millions, billion, blah, blah, blah. So the amount of deaths to the amount of population in the United States comes to approximately 0.0245, somewhere in there, percent. It's not 1 out of 100. It's 0.025 out of 100. So you got 25 thousandths of a percent. It takes 40 of those to make a 1,000, which would make 1%. It's 1/40th of 1%. And I was watching a video by Guy Mcpherson, and he said, the coronavirus is still waging, and he goes on, and as shown by the evidence. And I was like, well, I don't believe this. So, the guy's fucking genius. I sent him an email and said, hey, been a big fan for years, really dig your stuff. But just out of curiosity, what was the evidence by that you were talking about? And he sends me back immediately this short, rude fucking email about, are you dim? No substance to it. And what about the aerosol masking effect? Well, Okay, his assumption and assertion is that because of the decreased industrial activity on the planet, especially in the places that it's happened most, that because there's less emissions and fossil fuels and carbon, CO2 and all this shit flying up into the air, these particulate matter and droplets have what's called the aerosol masking effect, which actually is like a filtered lens over the Earth that reduces solar radiation coming in, and it keeps it slightly cooler. So we can't keep burning fossil fuels, but we can't stop burning fossil fuels, because if these things fall out of the sky, we're done. Well, I don't see what that... I do understand that because of this coronavirus, lockdowns, blah, blah, blah. There's fucking decreased emissions. It's already starting to show it. We didn't have a spring. It went straight from winter to summer, like in one day. There was a day of cold rain, then an intermediate day of not so cold rain, and then like a 95-degree day. And it's been off and on, up and down on the heat scale ever since. So I sent him this email saying, hey, where's the evidence for the coronavirus? That's what I was talking about. And he sends me this thing about DIM and aerosol. And I said, hey, man, ease up. I sent him back one. I was asking about where's the evidence that the coronavirus is doing this thing? And he sends me back an even ruder one saying, oh, you are DIM. And then what? Like this comes in waves. Well, that would almost indicate to me like a foreknowledge of like waves. Like really, pandemics come in waves. All of them, he says. Maybe historically, I don't think so though. But that would belie to me that he was privy to some knowledge of manipulation that not the rest of us are, because you can't know the future. And because he says 1 million lives or more would be lost. And then he says, what about, you're not taking into account the aerosol masking effect. And I was like, yes, I am. That, I think, is probably going to spell the ruination of mankind. But as far as how many lives the COVID-19 virus is going to take itself, how many is that? And then he sends me back this final one, like, oh, you're so dim I can't even talk to you. And then he goes, go away, child. Now, I was born in 1959. He was born in 1960. Hi, how are you? And I don't buy into the thing that this guy is any particularly smarter than I am. He just happened to have been a little more determined and dedicated to his occupation, and he's gotten recognized for great work, but I don't think he's the be-all, end-all of all knowledge, especially not when you're buying into a bullshit fucking conspiratorial lie. So, being a professional comedian, I had to send him some retorts that I'm sure he didn't like. I haven't heard from him since. But then I also sent him a fact sheet about what has really happened with the COVID-19, which anyone who checks an actual verified, fully referenced fact sheet about the statistics of what has happened in on this planet since they discovered the COVID-19, how many deaths there have been versus all this. The damage is already devastating. Already is it devastating from doing these quarantine lockdowns, all this bullshit. But the damage from deaths is minuscule on a global scale, on a national scale, and it's all been twisted into this fear-mongering social manipulation, and most people don't have a science background or math, and so they're going to go along with it because they figure these people are professionals, they're educated, they know what they're talking about? Yeah, they probably do. And the reason that they were not, most of the people that imposed lockdowns and quarantines didn't do the same things themselves, the reason is because they knew it was bullshit. And why else? If they were really afraid of this, they themselves would be wearing masks and all this shit. The bad upshot is that it makes Trump look better. So I had to unsubscribe, and the basic point of this whole video is, hey, Guy Mcpherson, if you see this video, fuck you, you stupid motherfucker. You buying into this shit, that means you just discredited everything that you ever said. Now, both my wife and I were not geniuses, we're not scientifically oriented intellectuals, but I'm smarter than the average bear, and so is she. Hold on. We excel in common sense. So, until someone shows me some actual evidence, World War Z stacking of the bodies or something, I'm not worried about it. Because if we were susceptible to germs now, we would have been just as susceptible to germs a year ago. But nobody was worrying about that. Here's a classic example of human intelligence. They're OxyClean morons. Everybody's freaking out about 6 feet apart. They have no idea why the fuck they're this thing with masks and 6 feet apart. It has nothing to do with epidemiology. What it has to do with is making people into faceless non-individuals and keeping them from assembling to talk about any of it. And all the shit that they have put the world through. They've ruined countless lives of people that have experienced financial ruin. I mean, not just drinkers and single people, families. There's riots over the whole thing. People's lives are being ruined by the conflicts that they're having. They're being ruined by the deprivation of things they're having. One of the things that makes no sense to me is everybody's like, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. I'll cough on a motherfucker, I don't care. But when they get in their car with their mask and gloves on, then they want to tailgate me so fucking close I can't even see their car in the rearview mirror. That makes me want to just stomp on the brakes and let these pieces of shit fucking rear-end me, and I go collect an insurance. Because they're just so self-entitled, self-possessed, self-obsessed. I mean, Jesus Christ. How is it that you don't equate the danger of riding too close to somebody's vehicular ass, but you're going to take the word of non-doctors and scientists over some invisible bug that's not really, it doesn't exist. The other thing Guy Mcpherson said was, this is the worst of all possible scenarios. It's a highly infectious virus that doesn't have a high mortality rate. And I'm like, really? Wouldn't you think that there would be something that would be worse, like a one that really killed a lot of people? Fucking dipshit. So, to sum it all up, and P.S. and all that, fuck you, Guy Mcpherson, you fucking lame.